Thank you guys very much for joining Toxic to Triumph. We are excited about our new season, and I'm excited about my very first guest of the season. As you guys can see, I have new equipment, and we have not only visual this year, but we also have the audio version. So if you're listening on iHeartRadio or another platform, you can also see the visual. But I'm very excited about the guest that I have with me today. I have Lee Hammond. Those of you who follow me and him on TikTok, he goes by Mental Illness. What is unique about Lee is that he is a diagnosed narcissist. And so for those of you who know and follow my podcast and follow everything that I do, you know that we talk about narcissism quite often. We talk about it very frequently and talk about toxic behavior, but it's very rare that we actually have someone that is diagnosed with narcissism, not only on this show, but just overall. It's not very common for someone to be able to be forthcoming about what they have gone through, their experience, their therapy, and as much as I've seen with Lee. So I'm excited to have him on. And so thank you, Lee, for joining us today on Toxic Triumph. And if you want to just introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you and a little bit about where you're at, and we can go from there.
Well, appreciate you having me on, Matt. Big fan of yours. You're like one of my faves on TikTok.
I appreciate it.
I feel like you wanted the genuine people on there. You know, some people on there are just kind of a little iffy or whatnot, but like I feel like you are you. You bring the comedy to the mental health stuff like that. You do the videos, and I can see like you're helping a lot of people. So I like that. For those who don't know me, like I said, mental illness. I'm 35 years old, father of two, one on the way.
Oh man, I didn't know. Congratulations.
Yeah, I got one on the way, due in the end of January. And,
okay, so that's coming up quick.
Yeah, so so I have two boys. So now my last one is a girl. So I'm just like, God.
Well, with that being said, you know, what's the life like in terms of parenting? And I know the minute that you said that you were having a baby, and that's the first time I don't know if you did a video on that, but I didn't see it. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But it's very common for a narcissist to see, you know, their pregnant wife and see that as competition. What has that? Have you had that experience? Is that something that you relate to? Obviously, everyone's situation is very, very different.
So it's just competition. I don't know, because that made me think. Because like when you said, because I do videos on like literally everything, you know what I mean? But I haven't, like, I do lives. I think people that are on my lives know that I'm having a baby, you know what I mean? But I just haven't done a video on it, which is kind of weird of me that you say that. So it could be some competition down there.
I think your videos, and to be fair, you're usually answering other people's questions in your video, right? So if we don't know, we're not asking, and typically people are asking questions based off of their own experience as well. So we wouldn't see it in the videos, but just, you know, behind the scenes or like in everyday life, like what's the day in the life like, you know, for Lee Hammond?
So I'm a real estate agent, so time is, you know, I feel like I'm always on a time crunch, and a lot of times it annoys me that I'm not in control of my full day, because, you know, like I just also recently bought a laundromat in High Point, North Carolina. It is just, you know, the laundromat is a good investment, but it actually made me start to like dislike people more. Because me and my partner, we bought the laundromat with hopes of like, because it's in like not, what's the best word to use? It's in the hood. You mean it's a laundromat?
Sure.
Hood.
Yeah.
And it's near a homeless shelter. It's near a soup kitchen. It's near all of that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So our goal was to like, you know what, we're gonna get this laundromat good. We're gonna give back to the homeless people, and the homeless people are just like the people who are like making it tough. Just doing like, and it's just like y'all are just killing me. You know what I mean? It makes you angry towards homeless people, because like what is brought to my attention is like there's a difference between homeless people and bums. You know, homeless people are people just like, dang, I don't have a home, but I'm still gonna try to work or whatever. I'm still trying to save my money. I'm still gonna do whatever it takes to get to my next step. A bum is somebody who just lays out there, literally lays out there in a sleeping bag in a parking spot and doesn't try. I'm like, how? And it's just, I don't know. It just makes me question my humanity sometimes, the way I think of them.
I'm gonna circle back to that here in a second because you mentioned how angry they make you, and obviously you have been in therapy for quite some time. From what I know, at least 3 years. From what I remember watching your videos, right? And so, tell me, like, what was like narcissistic rage like prior, and like what would you say is different now, if anything?
So prior to it, I can give you a little backstory to it because like every time I meet a girl or whatever, I would take them around the family and whatnot. My cousins, my family members, I always tell them, it's like, hey, he's a great person. He's hilarious. He's gonna make you laugh. He's gonna do this. But like when you get him mad, you probably not gonna like him anymore. And of course, people will take that as like, of course, the girls will take that as a joke, like, oh, he's cool, he's cool. But then like when I get mad, it's like, whoa, it's like it's scary because like back in the day, like when I get to that point, because I would consider myself typically like reserved, so I'm just kind of chill most of the time. I'm laid back.
Are you more of a covert narcissist?
Yeah, yeah. I would say that people. I guess it's hard for people to believe that because I'm just naturally shy and stuff like that. You mean unless I start drinking and unless people push the right buttons. When people push too many buttons and kind of set it off, it's just like blackout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gets to the point where like it's kind of like when I used to rage out. I would say 4 or 5 years ago when I used to rage out on my current wife, it used to be like, I don't know, it'd be like an out of body experience. It'd be like, I would like my own consciousness would take a step back to whatever was taking over. It'd be screaming, throwing stuff. I would never hit her or anything like that, but it'd be screaming, throwing stuff, just trying to just overall intimidate her and put her down. And just to whatever the topic was we were arguing about, just to get off that topic and put it all on, on her. And it was just bad, but because I would be like me personally, I would be watching it like from my own subconscious, but there's literally nothing I could do about it. I'm like, well, this is bad. And then when I would come down from the rage or whatever, she would leave, or I would go downstairs or to a room or something, or I would leave. I'll be embarrassed. I was like, what the hell was that? Man, like that got way out of hand. I was like, why? And I was starting to question myself to the point where it would get to the point where I was like, you know what? She did deserve that. Like you were in the right. I was just justified to myself. I'm like, I was right.
And I know that it's very, I get a lot of these questions. I'm sure you do too, where people ask, are you consciously doing it, or is it a subconscious thing where you just are unaware? Can you run through that a little bit about whether or not like you are consciously like projecting, or if you just subconsciously, if it's just something that's just randomly happening and then you just don't realize it till later on?
So I would know when I was, I would know. Oh my son's walking. Sorry.
Sorry.
I would know when I was, like about to pop off, and I would just, I would do stuff to try to like alleviate it. I was like, okay, I just feel it. I was in my 30s, so I would feel it coming. I was like, I'm about to say some craziness. And I was like, I don't need to say this. So I would just try to walk away or whatever. And she was just antagonizing. And it was like, boop. And then once it gets started, there was nothing I could do to stop it. So it was just like, it would have to play itself out. So I consciously knew what was going on, but I just like, there was nothing I could do to like stop it. There was nothing like, I was like, what? I need to stop this right now. I need to, sorry about that. Sorry.
It's all right. We can edit all that out. That's not a problem.
So I would be conscious leading up to it. Like I knew it was coming. Like I can feel it coming. I was like, she just needs to chill. Just leave. I would say that. I would verbalize like, hey, just chill. Like this. Like just stop. I don't want to talk right now. And then like, we need to talk about it. And they're like, oh. And if I feel like it was okay. Look.
Go ahead.
Give me one.
Yeah, go ahead. I can edit it out.
All this upstairs. all your stuff, okay?
I got this.
Yeah, throw the book in here. Here, let's go. I'll take it upstairs. All right, throw the book in there. Let's go. Go. Meant to lock this. Sorry. Goodness gracious.
That's all right. No problem. It's the reason why I hired an editor, because so we can edit stuff like that out.
Yeah. So what was I saying? So it would get to the point where I was conscious up to it. And, most of the time, I would say most of the time the rages that I would get into were like justified on her end. It would be a justified argument that we needed to have that didn't need to get to that point. It was just, it'd be a lot of stuff that was left unsaid and unspoken about that if we would have just talked about in that moment, it wouldn't have got worse 3 weeks later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we address it right then and there, there'll be no need for the rage. You know what I mean? We can just have a decent conversation about it. But once it boop, there was nothing, I don't know. It's like I said, it's an out of body experience. It was just it would just happen, and then there's I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I knew it was coming. I knew when I was doing it, but while it was happening, it was just an out of body experience. It was just well,
So would you describe it as you just would just kind of shut down? You would kind of just black out and just, and then, just go from there?
Yeah, sometimes I would goodness, right. Sometimes it would get to the point where I wouldn't necessarily call it a blackout because, you remember how it got there, but you wouldn't remember what you said sometimes. Sometimes because I don't know, every time I would store up bad stuff to say just in case, I needed to protect myself against her anyway. So a lot of that stuff would just come out in blurbs and yelling and screaming and cussing and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it would just, and she would tell me later on, you said this and this, this. I'm like, oh my God. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have said it, but in that moment, I feel like it needed to be said, but it didn't though. It didn't need to get to that point. It was just I don't know. This is ragey.
when you would get to that point, and after, like you said, that there was a lot, or you knew, or she would bring things up that you said. Mm-hmm. What would happen from there? Is this where the gaslighting would begin, and then you would just start projecting and start denying? What did that look like for you?
She would say stuff like, "Oh, when we were arguing last time, you was screaming at me. You said this and this and this," and I was like, "Well, I wouldn't say anything like that to hurt you. I don't know. You might have misheard me or whatever, or you just took it the wrong way. But I didn't. It would be super gaslighting. Well, I wouldn't I know I was mad in that moment, but I wouldn't say anything like that. This is evil. I'm not evil. I'm a good person.
Right. Go ahead.
Super like that.
One of the things I appreciate about your TikTok page, and you being very forthcoming and helping out others and allowing for people to see behind the curtain of narcissism, things like that, is the genuineness, right? But which is unique when we're talking about a diagnosed narcissist. And I think that it catches a lot of people off guard, obviously, right? Because of people's experience with narcissism. And tell me a little bit about your journey. How did we get to this point of actually being diagnosed and actually taking the initiative of not only just going it there, because a lot of narcissists will go, but they won't stay. You're 3 years into this journey. How did we get here? What was different with Lee versus other people?
So I'm always, it just in a narcissist mindset. It's never trying to level with somebody. It's always trying to be better. You know what I mean? It's always trying to one up the next person. It's always some kind of, just competitive nature overall anyway. So just when I started reading about narcissistic personality disorder and things like that, I was just like, damn, that's just terrible. You know, I was like, you don't want to be that. You know, like in my mind, I was like, wait, what? And I listened to a lot of Tony Robbins. I was telling you, like Tony Robbins is like, you know, he's like, you don't have to be that way. And I was just like, I don't. You know, I just like, there's no cure to it, but like going to therapy has made me. I want to be like the best narcissist. You know what I mean? So it's like competition with other people, with other narcissists. You know what I mean? Because I know like a lot of people on TikTok is like, whoa, you the only self-aware narcissist I know of. Like I was in a group on Facebook with like thousands of them. And like thousands. I was like, whoa, you know, it's just like, it's like a community on there. And one of those rage, this is how I got to that point though. One of those rage arguments turned into like, my wife had went to work or whatever. And my son was like, I think it wasn't quite one yet or whatever. And he was just like, I just had a bad day. And I was just yelling and screaming at both my kids and whatever, you know. She came home and just happened to come home early and just me yelling at my son for crying. And we got kind of went back and forth, you know. She's like, it's so hard. I live with a narcissist. You know, I didn't know what it was. You know, I thought narcissist was somebody that was just like full of themselves. You know what I mean? I was like, you know, I was like, you're a narcissist. Like, if anybody's a narcissist in this house, it's you. Like, I don't like, you're the vain one. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So I kind of threw it back at her. Then she like took my son and left. You know what I mean? Went to her friend's house or whatnot. And I'm just furious. I'm like, what the hell is like? Is there something wrong with being a narcissist? I just like, it's you just to protect yourself. Like I'm not no terrible looking person. So like, I guess I can see why people think I'm a narcissist. But I started looking it up. Like when you start typing in narcissist in Google, like you know how Google autofills, like personality disorder. I'm like, huh? So I hit, you know, I just completed this thing, and it was like, wait. And I started reading into it. And it's like, you know.
Started hitting close on home.
Yeah. I started reading more and more to it, and like you kind of start like looking at your old relationships and stuff. Like, oh my. And it's just like it hits you all at once. You know, you see all that stuff. You're like, and most of the literature written on narcissists is from people that have been abused by narcissists. Or psychologists that write about their experience dealing with narcissist abuse victims. So it's all kind of like negative on narcissists because you don't want to be that. You're like, I don't want to have NPD. That's not me. You know what I mean? So I told her I looked it up. I was like, look, I looked it up or whatever. Like, yeah, it sounds a little like me. Well, I say it sounds a little like both of us. You know what? I'm willing to go to therapy to just prove it's not me.
Right. But so, you from what I remember on one of your videos, you said that when you initially went to therapy, it was really just you said it was typical narcissist manipulation from what I remember from your videos, right? You weren't planning on staying.
No, I was just gonna go to. I thought, you know, I don't know. Mental health and therapy is not like, you know, big in our community anyway. So I was like, I just need one session and I'll be fine. You know, you're gonna tell me everything that's going on, and I just go, you know, I can take it home and be done with it. But you know, so for a few months went by and we kept getting arguments. So I said, what happened to therapy? And then she threatened to leave again. I was like, okay, let's go. So I got on Psychology Today, and I just, you know, put in narcissistic personality disorder on there, and I found. I went through there just trying to figure out who I can talk to, and I was just saying, and I just pick. I'm like, I'm gonna pick this one. It's close to my job or whatever. I just pick her, and set the appointment or whatever. And it just, I just remember going to my first therapy appointment, and she's like, "So at 31 years old, what are you doing here?" And I just start crying. I was like, "Why am I crying?" You know, I just couldn't figure it out. Like, why the hell am I crying right now? It was just weird. You know what I mean?
Right.
She's like, "Why are you?" She's like, "What was that?" I was like, literally, I don't know. And then it just. I've been with the same therapist for like 3+ years. I mean, people ask me to say, like, will you try to switch or whatever? I was like, nah, I like her. Because she don't, to me, I don't know. I like strong women. I feel like she's a strong woman. Like, she'll call you on your bullshit. It's like, that sounds like some bullshit, Damon. I'm like, damn, okay. You know what I mean?
Right. And how did that diagnosis actually, how did she, because you know, from what I understand, whenever I would provide therapy for, back when I did accept narcissists, they, you know, you have to build a rapport first before you get there, right? Because of exactly what you said. Yeah. You know, when you get home, you start looking up NPD and you start seeing a lot of the traits, and you start, and people can kind of come unglued and start to come unraveled if you're not careful, right?
Mm.
So was that your experience? Did she build a rapport? Did it take a few sessions for her to let you know that it was NPD, or what was that like?
It was a few sessions. It wasn't the very first session. My phone. It wasn't the very first session by any means. It took a few sessions for her to mention that, because she was like, first I was like, I don't. She's like, yeah, because you put on Psychology Today, you have to put in the reason why you want to come. I was like, my wife said this, and then like, I looked it up, man. It kind of fit. It kind of fit both of us, and I just wanted to make sure it's not me. And I went in there, and then we just got to talking. I just felt comfortable with her. She did build a rapport to the point where like I felt like I could talk to her and not be judged, and that's the reason. Like my whole life, I haven't really spoken to most people, because like you don't want to tell them what's going on in your head, because like they'll judge you. Like, I don't want to be judged.
Mhm.
But you're trying to usually like, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that, Lee? And I'm like, same way he feels. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because you don't want to be judged or whatever. But like, I feel like I could just, I'm gonna share a little secret with her to see what she says. And I told her, and she was like, oh, okay. It's like, I can understand why you did that. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I told her about the screaming and the craziness, and she was like, damn. And she just be real with me. I was like, well, I can deal with her. You know what I mean?
Right.
I,
Absolutely. And did she
I
come straight out and say it was NPD when she told you, or
Yeah,
did
yeah. It took, she was actually like, it's uncomfortable with me to get personal with people. You know what I mean?
yeah.
She would ask me all these like weird questions, and like had me like answering questions on questionnaires and stuff like that. So I didn't know she was testing me or anything like that. But then she told me, she was like, yeah, it's gonna be this. I was like, really? Like, in me thinking of like, oh, so it's a mental illness. Like, I guess you can take pills and stuff like that. Like, I don't know drugs. Like,
Right.
I could take Valium or whatever. Some
Right.
Xanax and feel better.
And for the audience, for the people listening, just to be clear, there is no cure for narcissism, and there's also there's no medication for it either, right? So and I'll throw this question to you here in a second, but just for the audience, people who are listening, people who are watching, for a narcissist to begin to recognize, and for them to become self-aware, it's a lot of like coping strategies, and it's a lot of not only therapy, like what Lee's talking about, but I mean, and you're very open about this. It
Yeah,
takes a lot of fucking work. It's hard, right?
yeah.
I mean, you've been pretty open in your videos about like, yeah, to this day, today was rough this morning. When I was getting prepared and things like that, you knew that it was going to be a rough day. And what is that like? Like, you know, do you just feel like this overwhelming feeling? Does it like, a lot of people, on the codependent side, they will talk about like they feel overwhelmed, right? Because they haven't set enough boundaries, and then all of a sudden they pop. What is it like for you on your end of your end of the spectrum when it comes to like, I can tell this is a rough day, and I maybe I need to get into therapy or get back to like self-love. Like, what does that look like for you?
So I feel like I call it like a brain. The way I describe it now is I call it like a monthly brain dump, because that's typically how often I go between therapy sessions, like a month.
Mhm.
I be like, I just build up, build up, build up, build up, build up, build up, and I go to therapy and like dump it all out. Because like every day, it's just kind of like I would say like every day is a different battle. Waking up and trying to figure out how you will feel like a you mean just enough. Like, am I gonna be enough to take care of my family? Am I gonna be enough to make it through the day? Like, and then like a lot of those self-defeating, it's like mostly self-defeating stuff. Like when you wake up, it's just like, you know what, just sleep an extra hour. You don't have anything to do anyway. Like, what's the point of getting to work early? Let's not, not gonna make any extra money. You're not gonna make, you mean, not gonna have any extra ideas. Just close your eyes and go back to sleep for a little while. And then, and I do that, and I wake up, I was like, I just wasted an extra hour of my life. I just wasted an hour I could have spent doing something productive. So my day automatically starts off bad like that. Trying to fight that, trying to fight, I don't know, trying to fight the urges in the back of my brain to not do anything, to not, I would say like waking up with NPD is like having an internal battle every single day to like just be. to just like exist. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do today to exist? You mean, because some days I just don't feel like doing anything. I just repost some old videos on TikTok. Like, I don't feel like getting on TikTok, or doing anything. I was like, I'm not even going to work. Like, sometimes I don't even leave the house. I'll be in the house all day.
And I think a lot of people who are listening would say that, they can relate to that where, I think that for them, they would listen to what you just said and say, I can relate to that, and I can already hear people, they're saying two things. Maybe I have NPD, right?
Yeah.
When they hear like, I just don't want to do anything today and I just want to have a lazy day, that sort of thing. And part two to that, I think a lot of people are listening to that and saying to themselves, Lee sounds like a normal guy. Where would you say that the difference is, like between like when you have those moments, right? What would happen if you kind of like let go and if you weren't aware? What would happen when you allowed those thoughts to kind of fester and kind of take control?
So if those thoughts, see, that's why my brain kind of goes to the left. I was trying to explain it because I've said that on TikTok before, and people like started like, that just sounds like me. That sounds like, am I a narcissist? They ask those questions. I was like, nah. It's like, how do I put this into words? It's like, it's, I like, me personally, I know I can get up. I know I can do whatever I need to do. But it's like a thought in the back of my head. It's like a different person. It's like somebody else in my head. Like, you know what? Don't do that. And then like sometimes like it's like battling a self demon. Like sometimes I win and sometimes he does or it does. So I'll be like, oh, let me get up. Like, I'm gonna get up and do this. Like even just getting up doing the smallest thing. Like I'll get up and do 10 push-ups, and that'll make the difference in my day. I'm like, okay, I did 10 push-ups, so I can make this phone call, or I can get him, I can do a video, and I can just, I can exist. And it's just like, some days I just feel like it's not, I wouldn't say anything kind of like suicidal thoughts or anything like that. Sometimes you just feel like, why am I even here? It's like, why do I need to exist? Like, who needs me? And then the self-awareness part kicks in, like, well, you got kids, you have a wife, you have a baby on the way, there's people that need you. And that's why I like TikTok, because I feel like people on TikTok need me. So let me make a video, so I'll get up early in the morning and do a video or something like that. I might not post it right then and there, but I'll just do something to feel alive, to feel like a human, because it's just, 90, I would say 90% of my thoughts are like self-defeating, like 90% of them. It's just like, and just the little 10% is not self-defeating, but it's just like existing. It's just like, wake up and just, just fight yourself today. It's just tough, you know what I mean? And then once you do get the day started, like, you're like, okay, I'm up out the bed, I'm breathing, I'm walking around, I'm doing I'm a human again, I'm alive. And then something else will bring you back down. Something little. It wouldn't even be anything major. It'd be like something stupid. Like somebody make a phone call that I don't feel like talking to. I'm like, oh, this is calling me today, and I got to deal with this shit. And it's like, you know what? Then the wife will walk in and she's like, hey, how you doing this morning? I'm fucking fine. How you doing? You mean?
Right. So you're popping off on things. So it sounds like in that situation, something small can cause a narcissistic injury.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden you're popping off on someone for something that they had nothing to do with.
Yeah, 100%. Like she would walk into the house and just say something. And I'd be like, what the, like, I'm cleaning. Like, what do you want? Like it, and I would always tell her that she come home nagging. I'm like, why are you nagging? She's like, I wasn't nagging. I mean, I was just asking how your day went. Like, but it sounded like you were nagging. Like, how's your day? It wasn't upbeat enough. Like, how was your day? You know what I mean? It'd be like the little stupid stuff, and just, I don't know. It just, the mind works weird. You know what I mean? And I'll be trying to like battle myself throughout the day, and like, I feel like having like the personality disorder is never feeling like you can do enough. And I think people always ask me, can you love? Can you be happy or whatever? And I was like, you have to explain what love is to me. You know, because like, I've read so much about what love is. Like, what is love? And people are like, love is, they give me the biblical definition. They're like, love is kind, love is
God
true.
is love, this and that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, then why are all these Christians out here trying to murder people? I'm like, the God, it confuses me. I'm like, so I had to take what Simon Sinek said. Simon Sinek explained love to me so good and emotion so good. I was like, that's how I feel. You know, it's like love is like a chemical reaction in the brain that you feel stronger for this person than you do for that person. And, because I listen to a lot of Simon Sinek's like his videos on YouTube or whatever, he'll ask a husband and a wife why they love each other. Like, hey, he's like, hey, woman, why do you love your husband? And she'll be like, well, he's so kind, he's sweet, he just gets me, and he's handsome or whatever. And Simon Sinek says, like, I'm all those things too. I can be kind to you. Do you love me? She's like, no. He's like, why not? And she's like, I'm everything you just described him as. Like, why don't you love me? He's like, you see, it's a chemical reaction. And then I was like, oh, I get that. So they kind of resonate with me as well. You know what I mean? I'm always in self-betterment.
You're pretty big on, I've heard you really, I mean, and there's been people I know that have trolled you saying that, how does it feel to not have a soul? How does it feel not have feelings, those sorts of things? And, that seems to really get to you. Tell me more about that. I mean, there's that and other common myths that you might hear that just are not true, not factual, that, that people are just come at you with.
Yeah. So when I first started my page, people were like super coming at me, and people would send me messages, whatever. They'll be like, I appreciate what you're doing or whatever. Just kind of be careful because there's a lot of like, they call them like narc hunters on here, and they're going to come for you, and they're going to like, because they've been hurt. They're hurt people, and they're going to come for you. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, but I'm not their husband. I'm not their wife or whatever. So I'm fine. And then I would get those messages and those. I haven't got any bad messages. It's like always the comments.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I was like, and I appreciate all the good comments. I'm like, yeah. Because I like this ego boost when I'm getting good comments. I'm like, yay, good comment. And then like you scroll to the bottom, like, what's it like not having a soul? I'm like, huh? Yeah. It's just like little they digging at me because I don't know if this is most narcissists or just me. It's just like I like when people like me. I don't like being not liked unless and it just kind of gets on my nerves when people put that stuff on there. I'm like.
Which I think is interesting because I know a lot of narcissists, it's common knowledge that narcissists like attention for narcissistic supply, but some don't care if it's good attention or bad attention, which is the reason why some of them will fuck up a holiday or a birthday and not really care. Have you had that experience or was that just not your thing?
Holiday seasons have like literally always been tough for me. I just don't get into the holidays. Like right now, it's like I don't know. I've been seeing people like a few other creators on here like it's narc season. Man, like what is narc season? Man, I watch their videos and listen. I'm like, what? That's true. Because like holidays, I don't know. I just like I don't know. I just I want to like conceptualize like why people like let's get together and eat turkey and this is like why I was like. Why do this? Like we can do this any day of the week, any day of the year. Like why today? I was just like, and it's not centered around something that I do because I don't cook on Thanksgiving or anything like that. I'm just hanging out, so I'm just like, it just makes me feel weird for Thanksgiving. And then Christmas is just like give, and I was like, and I never want to receive anything. I just like giving and making people happy because people are like, what do you want? What do you want? That's my wife's like, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, just give me some socks. Socks or whatever. Then put a pack of socks under the tree or something like that. And Halloween and just stuff like that. I just don't get into them. I don't really care for them. And I would unintentionally, I feel like it was unintentional. I would ruin a lot of holidays just by not participating. Like as you can see, I just put my son back upstairs. I would sit down here and my wife would have her family over here and they'd be upstairs and I'd be just down here just doing nothing.
I think a lot of people who listen to this can, they know exactly what you're talking about. And they, because I've heard, and I've talked to a lot of people I work with that will say like, that's exactly what the narcissists that they're dealing with would do, right? Their birthdays, holidays, vacations, they just isolate themselves. And then when you try to get them out of their cave, that's when they experience the narcissistic rage. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose for whatever holiday, whatever situation it is. Is that what it was like in your situation too?
Yeah, because I'm like, because me personally, like this is before I was aware. I would just separate myself away from everybody. I'm like, I don't be around all these greetings and talking and all this stuff. Like because people get drunk and drinking and stuff like that. They'll start asking all personal questions. Like I'm not trying to get very personal with these people, so I go downstairs to get away from everybody, or just kind of separate myself. And my wife be like, "Why are you down here?" I'm like, I'm just hanging out. Like I'll be back up here in a second. And she's like, well, everybody's up here asking about you. Like, don't tell them not to worry about me then. Like, why they so worried about me? They don't need me up there. They got you. Just talk to you. And just be unnecessary, like scream fight fest and stuff like that. So nowadays, when I'll see myself come downstairs, I'm like, let's go upstairs. Let me just go upstairs and sit down. Even though I don't care for it, I would do it just because it just alleviates the pressure on her. Like, because people don't have to ask questions.
Right.
And I don't have to be annoyed. Because like that is, I feel like it sounds like it's about her, but it's still about me. Because like, okay, if I go sit upstairs for 20 minutes, she won't have to come downstairs and get on my nerves. I don't have to get mad at her. So I can just remain calm. You know what I mean?
Does your wife participate in therapy with you?
No, we've done some marriage counseling before.
Uh-huh.
But we haven't done like not any like solo therapy sessions or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Did you do any therapy sessions with her before you were aware? Did you guys do any marriage? No? Okay.
No, this is like even after I've been aware, she's left me before because like I think people assume because she's came back and because it's hard to get your whole story in 60 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
She hasn't left just once. She probably left like 2 or 3 times. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even after I've been aware, even after I've been in therapy, like she left this year. You know what I mean? I started my TikTok in May, and she just came home at the end of April.
Okay.
So I don't think people knew that. Like people are like, she left and whatever. So I think they assumed that she had been gone, and we've been like just living this perfect coexistence for the last few years. Like, no, it's been like a couple months. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like, you just kind of know. I was like, I'm just disinterested in this life and this relationship, or whatever. And you just care about it, but like, that's nothing I can do. And then like, come home. I drop my oldest son off. Come home. It's like she's gone. Like everything's gone. And I'm just like,
Right. When she leaves, do you hoover? What does that look like? I know that's very common. And I know it's a burning question for people listening.
Yeah.
Right. What does that look like for you?
So that's what people, like I said, that's what I think people always ask, like, I would like to hear your wife's point of view and how she feels about this. Like, I tell them, I'm like, I don't feel like there's any kind of information that she can give you outside of just dealing with a narcissist on a normal basis. Because like, I tell people, like, I'm 100% still a narcissist. The Hoover is just different because as aware as I am of myself and how I do in my personality disorder, so is she.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows it's coming. So she like, I guess you can anticipate it or whatever. But like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to change. I'm back in therapy. I'm in therapy now. I'm going to therapy. We can do marriage counseling. We can do whatever it takes to get you home. You know what I mean? And I know her tics. So like, okay, she doesn't want to be bombarded by text messages. Don't want me to stalk her and nothing like that. Even though I know where she is, I'm not going to stalk her. I'm not going to pop up on her. You know what I mean? I'm just going to give her space, but not give her space at the same time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because we have a kid together. It's like, I can use a kid. You know, I can use my son. I'm like, well, you drop Kingston off. Like, I'll be cool. You know, drop him off. I'm like, hey, mommy can come home soon. I would just say little stuff. You know, he's like, mommy be home soon. You won't have to get dropped off anymore. You know, just little stuff. You know, just put in her head and got her to come back home. You know, and I want to commit to change. You know, but I can see myself even now. I'm slipping back into the sometimes non-affectionate person that I was. And I'm like, God, I ain't hold her or talk to her today. I was like, and it just annoys me because I know it now. Like back in the day, I was like, nah, who cares? You know, we married. She's not going anywhere. But now I'm just like, she's left before. let me go upstairs and talk to her for a second. Or let me make a decent effort. And people think it's because of her. It's more because of me. It's like, I have to do this because I don't want to. I don't have to start over and do anything like that. I mean, I feel like she's the right person for me, so I don't want to start over and do all the stuff I tell people I would do on TikTok. I would do that. I'm like, I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to have to bring people to court for custody battles and do silly stuff like that and just be the person that people pretty much know I am. I was like, I want to be different. So I'm committed to being different. I don't want to be in that pool of narcissists that have abused and treated people badly, even though I've done that before, not physical, but like mental and stuff like that. I don't want to be in that pool. I want to be on my own little island. So when people pop up nowadays and they see my page and they say, hey, and they'll do a video like, hey, you know what? I have that personality disorder as well. Or, hey, I have borderline personality disorder with narcissistic traits. I'm like, let me watch you. You know what I mean? Because there's one girl on there. I'm pretty sure everybody knows her. What's her name? Nafam91.
Yep.
Oh my God, that girl is. She is something else. I don't know. She's a treat.
I love everybody on there, so I'm not going to comment on not
Yeah,
family.
I know.
Yeah,
Man, I messaged her.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
looking on there. She's
yeah,
like, I messaged her like, look, reel it in a little bit, you
yeah.
because she's a treat. I like her. I always have a soft spot for people with mental illness and mental health issues. So I'm always like, I see where you're coming from.
But
Just reel it.
you know, one of the things about her that I love about her and I love about yourself, and it's actually caused me to reel things in a bit as well, is not demonizing the disorder, right? And I've been personally trying to be more aware of that as well, knowing that there are aware narcissists out there. There's people with that are struggling with BPD,
Mm,
and understanding that there's a big difference between the disorder and abuse, that we
yeah.
can demonize abuse. We should demonize abuse. But when we start demonizing the actual disorder, we could be separating people who might be willing to come forth for therapy. What has been what was your experience like with that when you or when being an aware narcissist, looking at creators, looking at it doesn't even have to be on TikTok, but just in general, when people demonize narcissism um, and personality disorders as a whole.
So I feel like when you and I try to understand why people demonize other people. I was like, I get it. You know what I mean? I like people have hurt people and beat people and abuse people and just the most malicious, evil people on the planet. And because that person did that to you, you feel like everybody else who has that mental illness is the exact same way. But I always feel like, so if you demonize the mental illness, which like I said, which I've seen, when I Googled it and I looked it up and I read the literature, it's all narcissists don't have souls. They don't have empathy. They don't care about you. They don't care about themselves. I saw one dude like, if you're having sex with a narcissist, he's really having sex with himself. I was like, what? And people were like co-signing. I was like, that's the weirdest video I've seen. You know what I mean? I was like, what? And I was like,
And
okay.
there's also a very big difference between someone who's aware and someone who is not aware, right?
Yeah.
You know, someone might experience something like that, and you know, because I do know that narcissists can weaponize intimacy and weaponize sex and things like that. There are some that might enjoy it, right? And they don't cheat or they don't step out, but they will use other forms of manipulation. They just may not use, that particular narcissist may not use sex as their way of devaluating and things like that. So what? Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you good. You good. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just like everybody has a different perspective, and like, which is interesting because like I said, I like seeing new creators on all different platforms, like with their own perspective. But just some people are just like when they just out to like just attack the disorder and just not just not the person that did it. It just I feel like it might set people back from getting help. You know what I mean? Like when I read all that stuff, like, oh, am I evil? I was like, I'm really a bad. Like I feel like I'm a good person. It just causes conflict in your brain. Like I thought I was a good person. I like to help people. I'm like I might do this and that, but this, like I said, this doctor said I was. I said I was evil. You know what I mean? Said I don't have this and that. So it kind of makes you not want to get therapy because like there's no, like I said again, there's no cure or anything like that. But those groups those groups that I was in on Facebook with the personality disorder, it kind of makes you feel like there's other people out there like you. Like, okay, like, so there is kind of hope because these people are living normal lives and, wife and kids. Some of the people on there are evil though. Like, I left the group because some of them, they were invite me to like deeper groups, like subgroups. It's a big group of like 10,000 people. Then they invite me to a group with 1,000. Then they invite me to a group with 100. And 100 was like sociopaths. I'm like, wait, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, that ain't me.
and so on the flip side, on one hand, we don't want to demonize it, but on the other hand, we recognize that there are some people that just really actually won't change.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things, I watched your videos and followed your page for a while before like we actually reached out and connected and things like that, because I wanted to make sure that was the case, that this was genuine,
Yeah.
right? And because you know, when we talk about a majority, right, especially when we start getting on those levels of sociopath, malignant narcissist, things like that,
Yeah.
the likelihood of them changing is very, very small, right? And one of the things I appreciated about your page is that uh, you speak the truth about that, right? And so, one of the biggest questions I think a lot of people are going to have is like, how do they know and how do they tell the difference?
So, so there's just such a small percentage of people that actually just want to get help and want to try to actually be a better person. It's crazy because I've done videos on this before. They're like, one of my very good friends is like a malignant narcissist.
Uh-huh.
And I'm super intrigued by him. I was just talking to him before I got on here.
Yeah.
And he has no want to change. And he doesn't see anything wrong with what he's doing. Like, he's successful. He's doing what he wants to do. He's got money. He's, he got a family, whatever. Even though he does little wild stuff, he has his vices and he's like super malignant. But he's like, what is therapy going to make me do? If I go to therapy, I'll be calmer and not be a go-getter anymore and stuff like that. So he's like, I'm going to live my life. So people, I feel like I've always known something was going on with my head, but like, you can't put a name to it. You can't put a thought to it. So like, if you can't acknowledge, I don't know, I've had a bunch of people reach out to me in my inbox and say, man, this sounds like me. What can I do? And I tell them, like, look, go to therapy and just see, just test it out.
Right.
Like, if you Google it, you might get discouraged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just go you can Google it, but like, go to therapy first and talk to somebody. I had one guy reach out to me recently. He's like, man, I just got diagnosed. Like, I don't know what to do. What I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
most people take that diagnosis. Well, not most. Like, some people will take that diagnosis and actually get worse. They're like, okay, I'm a narcissist.
Because there's no cure, because there's no notification, and they just, just run with it, right?
What do I do? Like, what? Okay, there's no life for me now. It's like, I'm just gonna stir into the skin. Now I have an excuse to why I'm. I have a personality disorder, so this is what I do. If you chose to be here, I can do that now.
I actually find a lot of people I talk to, a lot of people I work with, the narcissist will actually go get a false diagnosis of bipolar or PTSD or something along those lines. They'll get some other diagnosis, and then they will manipulate and use that, say like, well, hey, I'm bipolar, hey, I'm this, and use that as an excuse for their bad behavior and use that as an excuse for their abuse, right? And so I've seen that before as well, where, so it definitely can happen on the other end where they get diagnosis of narcissism and they're like, oh, fuck it, like, who cares? Like, there's no cure for it, so either put up with it or shut up. And so I could definitely see that in the other direction as well.
I'm not trying to diminish PTSD or like bipolar or anything like that. But I feel like people would do that to get sympathy. They're like, hey, I'm a narcissist. It's like, people like don't like that. But like, it's like, look, I have PTSD from my childhood, and people would sympathize with you and feel sorry for you. So when you do yell and scream and you might hit them, they're like, well, he has PTSD. His mom did this to him when he was growing up. So you feel, I can actually understand why people do that, because you can get the sympathy. You can play the sympathy card all the time with people. Like, well, I've been diagnosed. Like, I have bipolar, so she shouldn't have said that to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
She shouldn't have said that to me, and this is why I am. So if you choose to stay, everything that happens to you is on you. It's not on me, because I can't control myself. I have bipolar. And I have PTSD, and that stuff triggers me, and I can understand that. But I like, people ask me all the time, like since you know that you're a narcissist, like, would you change it? Like, I don't know if I would change it now. Because like, I don't think there's anything wrong with how I am as a person. Like, yes, something might be a disconnect or some kind of trauma that I suffer, or whatever. But like, I still feel like I can be a good person with the personality disorder. I can like change the stigma, not only to like the men and women who have been abused by narcissists. They're all that stuff they say is valid, but like, the goal of my page was originally to, and it still is, to get more people into therapy, so you don't feel bad about having something that's wrong with you that you cannot control.
Right.
And that's why I still stick to that to this day, even though the content is kind of, if you scroll back to the beginning of my page, the content was kind of, it was still the same, but it was like a little different. It's more geared towards therapy than actually validating people's feelings and stuff like that. But then people will send me messages like, what's your one mama's battle, Tina. That's one of my favorite pages. It's like she's like messaging me like my first day on TikTok, pretty
Yeah.
much. And I feel like she's a genuinely good person, and she was like, and she kind of told me, she was like, you can have the ability to help more people. Like there's probably gonna be more victims than there are narcissists. So if you kind of change it a little bit, you can help people equally, because people will see you speaking as a narcissist and get that validation, and people who are narcissists were like, damn, that sounds like me, and reach out to you. And I was like, that makes sense. And she was just so sweet about it. I was like, you mean she knew?
Yeah, you can't tell Tina no.
Yeah, I was like, she was so sweet about it. I was like, that makes sense. I like, and the way she came, like, you could tell she had experience with narcissists. The way she messaged me and worded it and everything, I'm like, there's no, like, this is not disrespectful. This is like constructive. Like, it wasn't even constructive criticism. It was like constructive, like, I don't know, this is whatever better word than criticism is.
Right.
Like, this is good. I can do that. So from that point on, my content has kind of like geared towards helping people, helping like everybody, instead of just helping people get into therapy. Is trying to help people like validate, like, okay, the way you feel is valid, but something is wrong with that person that hurt you, and like they need the person that hurt you, like you are valid. You need to heal or whatever, but like the person that hurt you, they got something going on that they need to address too. And I want to help everybody, but sometimes it kind of gets.
They also have to want to help themselves, right?
Yeah. People come on there and just like, you're a demon. I got a demon comment today. I was like, what'd I do?
I mean, haters are gonna hate. I get hater comments too. I don't even address it. So, well, Mr. Hammond, thank you very much for your time today. And we're gonna have to do this again for sure, because there's a lot of other questions I want to ask you. I mean, a lot of people don't. We recently just found out that you have a twin brother. We haven't really dealt with that very much, things like that. So, but we'll save that for next time. Thank you very much. And we got you a gift for being on the show today. We have this self-aware shirt that is it's actually going to be in my merch store, but I'm going to be sending this out to you as a gift. So thank you very, very much.
Well, I really appreciate it, man. Appreciate
no problem. Thank you. And we'll send this out, and I'll consider that your Christmas gift, because you're going to get
I feel about Christmas, so I appreciate it.
No problem. I'll tell your wife to bring it down to the basement.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you, man.
No problem.
I really do.
Talk to you soon.
All right, man.
Bye.